I was looking at Deadspin today and saw an article by a lawyer for LegalBlitz.com. He's Steve Silver. And he brought up, I just want to try to answer all of these questions. We're in business with FanDuel. They sponsor the show. But I would also like to know, where are we headed? What's the end game here? What's the Attorney General want here? And Steve Silver, the lawyer for LegalBlitz.com, joins us. What did the Attorney General say yesterday? What does all this mean, Steve?
Sure. Well, in the short term, it means that these sites, they have about 5 days to respond. If not, they need to shut down. And New York is one of their largest markets. I think about 10% of all of the players come from New York. So this is a major blow to the industry. And where this is headed, I think, is the state, regulating these sites as a form of gambling, which means they're going to have to apply for licenses, they're going to have to pay heavy taxes, and be subject to, government control like casinos are.
Why now?
Well, it's popular. As I wrote, this is the bandwagon. The laws have not changed since 2009 when FanDuel launched. All that's changed is that, week one of football season, every single commercial was for one of these two sites. And so people who may have never heard of this suddenly thought, hey, this sounds a lot like gambling. How is this possibly legal? And now you got all these politicians and lawmakers involved. But nothing's really changed. It's just now's the popular time to do it.
New York has horse racing gambling. What's the difference?
Well, horse racing has always been treated differently. In almost every state, called pari-mutuel wagering, and the difference is that it doesn't, frankly, it doesn't involve people. The law treats horse racing differently than contests involving, athletes or people.
Okay. So
let me put it this way. Our gaming laws, whether at the state level or federal level, are incoherent and inconsistent. So to try to make sense of them is going to be difficult.
Okay, what about going to a casino? They talked about people who play these daily fantasy football sites are victims here. Are people who go to a casino, are they victims?
Well, that's what I find most shocking about this letter from the Attorney General, is saying that daily fantasy is not harmless nor victimless. Well, what about the lottery? And like you said, what about casinos? These are forms of entertainment, and people should be allowed to spend their money how they want. But if you are going to go down that victim road and protect the public, then you've got to outlaw everything. It can't just be DFS.
Well, you do the scratch-offs, and those are already predetermined, Steve. Are you a victim if they're taking advantage of you being addicted to doing that every single day?
Well, that seems to be what the Attorney General is saying here.
Yeah, but they're not getting rid of the scratch-offs.
Exactly. I mean, that's the problem here, is that this is an attack on, it's a popular attack because all these other states are getting involved. And like the scratch-offs, it's all chance. There is no skill involved. I find it hard to believe, and then I read the comments on some of my stories, that people really believe that DFS, that poker, that sports betting is nearly 100% chance, which is just false.
Oh, no, it takes skill to be able to do that. I mean, if you know nothing about football, you're in trouble. If you know nothing about poker, you can be in trouble if you're playing high stakes there. But does New York State want a bigger piece? Because I'm looking at all these leagues that are involved in this, Steve. You got a couple of owners in the NFL who bought into a fantasy site. I think they bought into DraftKings. But, what's New York want out of this? Do they really just want to shut it down, or do they say we want our piece of this?
I think at the end of the day, they want their piece. And the part of the New York State law that the Attorney General cited, has a clause in there that really it has to be authorized or allowed within the state. So what that means is, if you classify it as gambling, it now comes under control from the gambling board or gaming commission, depending upon what state you're in. And that means that, they get their cut. At a casino, the state gets their cut first in the count room, and that's what they want. So I think at the end of the day, that's where we're headed. But you do have like the U.S. Attorney in New York, Preet Bharara, who shut down the poker websites. I mean, that's a little different. If there is something, if they find any sort of evidence of this, alleged insider trading, then the sites could go black.
Well, I know, and they looked into that, and they didn't find anything with insider trading. You have the NFL that gives you injury updates. They give you they don't shy away from betting lines. So I'm just trying to figure all of this stuff out, because if they're going after somebody, should they be going after everybody? And are you less of a victim if the New York State gets a bigger piece of these fantasy sites? Is that what they're saying to me?
Well, like I said, this cease and desist letter contradicts itself a few different times, but what it seems to be saying is this is gambling to us under our interpretation of the rules, and because of that, if you want to operate, you have to do it by our rules, and it means we get a cut of the action. Mm-hmm. So to sort of couch it in this, we're protecting victims, or it's for the public health, is just ridiculous.
So if they pay enough, though, Steve, then there's no more victims. Is that what they're saying?
At the end of the day, I guess so.
Oh, my gosh. Okay, how do you expect FanDuel and DraftKings to respond to the Attorney General?
Well, like I said, they have 5 days to do so, and I think there's a few points that they're going to attack specifically, one of which is where this cease and desist letter compares DFS to poker. And I think they're going to say that, look, we treat poker as gambling, however, it's really a game of skill. And so are we. And also this notion of 1% wins all the money. That's a stat that I don't know where the Attorney General got that from. There's no citations, and I'm not sure if they can back that up. So I think that's an easy point to attack, and a point that supports FanDuel and DraftKings. Well, if it's true that this top 1 or 2% is winning all the money, well, it shows that the cream rises to the top, and the most skilled players and entrants win. That's a direct counter to saying this is just a game of chance.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks for joining us on short notice.
Oh, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Steve Silver, lawyer at LegalBlitz.com.